Greetings and welcome to the Pure Report. I'm your host, Rob Ludeman. It is time to bring the orange, and I'm thrilled to have two guests in the studio today. One who's been on the audio podcast, First Time Video, Joey Clark, and Drew Kessel from our Field Solution Architect team covering cyber. Gentlemen, welcome in. How's it feel to be here?
It's great.
Yeah?
Super excited.
Super excited? I know. It was super convenient in town for an executive briefing with a customer. And you guys worked it in, which is great. I love when people do that. And a great plug, right? If you're a customer or partner out there, use the Executive Briefing Center here at Pure. It's gorgeous. What do you guys think?
So I think we've already done an event.
Yeah.
Well, it was us. We did the speaker training in January.
That's right.
Which was amazing.
Yeah.
Really First off, I was like, well, we're doing speaker training. Why do we need to do that?
Everybody can improve
and then
public speaking.
We had the one lady that was a trained actor.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I got something out of it.
Sneha, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. She works on our product marketing team. She's a trained voice actor. And she's doing more videos for us, which is really, did you do that speaker training?
Yes, I did. It was fantastic. I got a lot out of it too. Like you said, like just the continuous improvement, right? We can always get a little bit better. And
always. Yeah, there's always little things. Even when I'm watching these podcasts and I'm hearing the little verbal things
we took it
that I do.
Tech summits.
Yeah. Well, we'll do tech summits a little bit later. Anyway, Joey Clark, larger than life personality. Great having you in here, principal technologist on JD's team, hailing from Arkansas.
Conway, Arkansas.
How long you been here? Oh, the home of Walmart. Yes.
No, that's actually Bentonville.
Oh, it's Bentonville. Shoot, that's right. What is in Conway?
Conway is where Axiom Corporation is.
That's right. Okay, I flipped them around.
Yeah.
I flipped them around. That's my mistake. I've even been to Bentonville. Yeah. What am I thinking?
So,
how long have you been here at Pure now?
So, February, it's like 11th, I think.
Yeah.
It's 10 years.
Good for you. Oh, you're hitting the 10 club.
Yeah. So I get my hoodie.
You get your 10. Is there one?
I think there's a hoodie.
Somebody should be.
Hoodie.
I want a hoodie when I hit 10.
Yeah.
That would be amazing. That'd be great. I can't wait to hear some of your stories today. Drew, first timer.
First time.
Welcome into the studio.
First time caller.
Thank you for listening. I appreciate it. You're coming up on 2 years yourself.
Coming up on 2 years.
How'd you find your way to Pure? What was that navigation like?
Well, a lot of that actually came from, I was in the data protection space for a really long time, worked with one of our data protection partners. And so many times we would partner with Pure and get these really fantastic outcomes in terms of recoveries and things like that. And I realized, I really like all the people that I know that I work with at Pure.
Common
thread. There's this role that is adjacent to what I do, and it's a new challenge.
Yeah.
And I went for it, and here I am, super excited to be here.
It's really great, and we can name that partner, right? I mean, we're friendly with. I mean, you were at Veeam.
Yep, I was at Veeam for a decade.
I'll say at Veeam, and that's one that we've been tight. We're tight with all. We love them all. We love all our children equally in that space. They all drive value in great different ways, but the best part is that they all work with us, and that's kind of a common thread. How'd you get started in working in the IT space? Because on your LinkedIn bio, it says something that you're a systems analyst.
I was long ago.
So what is that?
And that's a great question.
What does a systems analyst actually do?
And the reality of it is I was in healthcare IT for about 7 years before I came to the vendor space. And basically what happened is over the progression of my career there, they had to kind of make up a title for me because I was doing a lot of different things.
Jack of all trades.
It was. Yeah. And a lot of it was around software. I did HL7 integration. I actually brought virtualization to them.
Nice.
I was ultimately responsible for their LIS, which is kind of like an electronic health record system. We implemented a new system. I was a big part of that project. So they just kind of had to come up with something to call me, and that's what they settled on. And I'm like, okay, as long as you pay me, I'm here.
As long as the direct deposit keeps showing up, you can call me whatever you want.
Exactly.
Right? And as long as I'm doing something that I enjoy, that is fantastic. Where did you get started? I feel like we may have done this on the audio episode, but I can't remember.
So actually, I was working for Nucor.
Yeah.
This is like in the late 90s.
Okay.
And I had done like some IT type training in college. I did like in high school, we did program, like our math teacher was
you got into that stuff early.
Got into it early. And then
coding in BASIC.
And I couldn't find,
that's way long ago.
Couldn't find my way. And so I was working at Nucor, making nuts and bolts. Kind of like quarter an inch thick.
Actual nuts and bolts.
Actual.
Not an analogy.
Not an analogy. Yeah. Actual nuts
Not a simile, metaphor.
Right? Not at all.
Yeah.
And so they were going to shut the plant down. And they were like, you can either go work somewhere else for Nucor or you can go get training. So I was like, don't really want to move. So, that's back when everybody was doing the MCSE training, search and all that. I was like, I can do that. So I went and did it and went to work at St. Vincent's Hospital in Little Rock.
Both kind of started out in healthcare.
Yeah.
It's a good place to start. It's a good place to, did you know that coming in?
I did not know that you started in that space. So that's pretty cool.
It's a good place to start though, right? And I find that as a common thread with some people that we have in here. There's just a lot to do, to your point, Drew, right? You've got the record system that you mentioned, and there's always things that need improving upon. And it's certainly a high pressure environment.
And it's heavily regulated, right? So there's so much that you have to keep up with and make sure you're in compliance with, right? It's challenging.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it was privatized here. I was just up in Canada a week or so ago. We were doing a user group in Toronto, and we have a bunch of healthcare customers in for the user group. And it's very different there because that's treated as a SLED account because it's public, it's run by the government. So I was talking to the rep there, and there's a lot of interesting different subtleties about how you have to approach the healthcare customers there versus here.
I was able to go through the British healthcare system. Well, my wife and I did a cruise, and during the cruise, we were on a shuttle a couple times getting it off the boat, and the guy on the last shuttle that we were going to take on one of the ports slams into the ship like hard, like the first time a woman hits her head on the window, but some blood coming down. Yeah. So the third time he's going in, I'm like, we're about to hit this thing really hard. So I reach around, grab a bar. We hit really hard, and I hit my shoulder. And I turn around, my wife looks at me. She's like, she knew immediately something was wrong. Yeah. So I have to go to the infirmary, everything, and they're checking me out, and they're like, well, we think you fractured your collarbone. So I have to go to the Royal Victorian Hospital in Belfast, Ireland. And, we're like, my wife are like, we're never getting back on this shit. It's going to take too long. We go in, like, there's 50 people sitting in there, like, immediately they take me back. What's going on?
Yeah.
So we go all the way through it. I go take x-rays again there, talk to the nurse practitioner. And she's like, you're good, but your shoulders are a mess. Did you play sports? Yes. That's the problem. So we get done, and she's like, all right, you're good. You can go now. And my wife goes, well, do we need to go pay somewhere? What do we do? She goes, I've never been asked that question. She goes, here, just say you've got this. Just walk out the front door. Nobody will say a word.
It's a different world. It certainly is. I want to dive in today. We're going to, for our listeners and viewers, we're going to navigate some different areas. That kind of tends to be the way we roll when you get on, because it's just a lot of fun stream of conscious thing. We're going to kind of hit a little on this file and object and unstructured. I had Ken Wee on recently, and we published that. We had Ken's great. I want to get into y'all's experience. See how I just did. You got Southeast people in here. I'm using y'all's.
We have that effect on people.
Sorry about that.
I navigate to whatever I hear. When I had Patrick Smith on, I started doing an English accent. Yeah. I want to hit a little also later on the effective enterprise data cloud, EDC. I'm calling it EDC in the wild, as well as Fusion. Like, what are you guys seeing? Because again, for people that don't know, principal technologist, consulting field solution architect in cyber, these two gents basically spend a lot of time, on airplanes and cars, but also out actually talking with customers. And at the time when it's really critical to do that. As far as my normal segment of stat of the episode, I'm kind of changing it to a little bit different. I don't have an actual number we're going to do today, but your anecdotal feedback was we're seeing a lot of really interesting breakthroughs and success with customers around this file, this object, and this unstructured space.
Yes.
Largely because of the investments that we've been making in making that technology better, but also much like the hallmark of what Pure does, we know what makes that stuff challenging and what our competitors do that makes it challenging so that we can, again, pause this mantra, fix everything wrong with storage. So that's where I want to go here too. Why are we seeing, and you guys couched it as a Southeast phenomenon. I think it's everywhere, but
it is everywhere.
Where you guys are seeing it, I'd love to hear your experiences on like what's going on? Why is something changed so dramatically in the last year around our pursuits there? Besides that, we have a cool team that goes off and focuses on it too. Tristan Todd's team.
Yeah, Tristan has a great team.
He does.
He really has a great team. We've got to work with Antonio a lot.
Yep.
and Ken.
Ken and
Russell. So we had Russell Pope.
People on the West Coast love Russell, yeah.
Oh, we had Russell come into because he's from Baton Rouge.
Yeah.
So we had a tech summit there, and he came in and did it and just knocked it out.
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah,
yes, good, great job.
Well,
Great job.
So what's changed? What do you see?
So I think, so we kind of started out. I mean, we knew we were coming up to where our file was becoming very competitive with everyone else. And I think what started to change at Pure was we had a lot of, SEs and everything was seeing that we'd had a lot of starts and stops and like they were kind of afraid of it. So we did 4 file days inside for our internal teams. And that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was 2 years ago. And so then they were kind of like, oh, it is different. It's not like it always has been. And so then they started pushing and going out and talking to customers, and we were bringing in Peter Gonzalez and everything to talk to different customers about, you may have a feature that NetApp has that you're like, I have to have this.
Yeah.
And we're like, but what if you could do it differently?
Mm-hmm.
What if you got the same or better results by doing it the Pure way? Because we've always done things our way.
We have.
And we find a better way to do it than our competition. So we started down that road. Now we're having like places that had never sold FlashBlade before, and like in Florida, Georgia, where they sold more FlashBlade than they sold FlashArray from Block.
Which is a great shift.
Yeah. And now they're selling FlashArray file and
one leads to the other though, right? And
yeah.
it always used to be FlashArray kind of dragged along FlashBlade.
Right.
It's like, do you want fries with that? Do you need backup with that? Drew,
Yeah.
Right? Do you need backup? And obviously we know there's more to it, but it is interesting seeing some of these accounts where FlashBlade is driving the initial interest because we're solving these challenges. And like you said, it's not unlike us to go take a different approach. The hard part is you then have to educate or teach our customers that no, you've always done it that way because that's what you've been stuck with, right? That's the legacy way that you've had to manage that technology. Here, let us show you a different way.
And it all started with Jonathan Carnes. He came up with a different, we're going to do this differently.
Love the Carnes.
He's got lots of friends at NetApp. He came from EMC. So he's like, I know where things went wrong. We don't have the tech debt. Let's go fix it.
Yeah, which is great. And this spills into your area with cyber resilience.
It does.
I mean, it's a natural fit in that space, or maybe an extension, if you will.
It is. If you look at it from a file perspective, there's a couple of different ways to take this, right? For one, almost all backup data is file data in and of itself, right? So we already have to be able to deliver that in order to do that with our partners or unstructured data, especially, right? There's a big shift in the backup space to move backup data to S3. Generally, object is kind of the way forward for most of our data protection partners because of some inherent benefits, things like object lock that allow the data to immediately be immutable versus maybe waiting on snapshot schedules and things like that. So that's a big part of it. But then there's the other half of it, which is we know that unstructured data is growing faster than every other type of data. Our data protection partners know that as well. And so what are they going after? How can they get more file backup opportunities? Which means now we're talking about backing up data from file, potentially to file, and we need solutions that do that really well. We've had a ton of big successes with Rubrik, Commvault, and Veeam all across the board with just file backup opportunities that maybe wouldn't have been quite as top of mind without the shift that we're seeing around talking about file in general now that it's top of mind for everyone.
And then you also have some of those trends we talked about in pre-brief too, though, where along with this transition to file backing up to file and other aspects you talked about, there's considerations, and certainly those alliance partners have gone that direction intentionally the last 4 or 5 years to now augmenting and adding in cyber resilience aspects into the solution, right? So it's not just a backup, it's a backup, but also we're adding various layers of protection, right? The tiered resiliency kind of resilience architecture. Can't say the C, I get, flogged. Scott Taylor will appear Scott Taylor will appear on my left shoulder and say it's resilience, not resilient. Hey, Scott. So hit a little bit on that, on that extension, how we're actually adding in now some of the ransomware protection and other bunkery features, because I think that's super interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the conversations that we're having right now are this layered resilience conversation where we want to deliver sort of a defense in depth for our customers, make sure that the data is available not only at production, also make sure that it's available on the backup side and kind of everything else in between, right? We've got a way to secure and make that data secure across the entire ecosystem. So, you have things like emerging things like snapshot bunkers, where we talk a lot about snapshots as one of the fastest paths to recovery. Well, if we're going to use snapshots as a fast path to recovery, we also have to be able to get to those snapshots. Example, right? My production array gets compromised. One of the things that can happen, that production array may not be available. Cyber auditors come in, law enforcement comes in, all of a sudden that thing's a crime scene and I don't necessarily have anywhere to recover from or to.
Yeah.
But what if I have those snapshots somewhere else, right? Then I have the ability to recover from those snapshots and even potentially run workloads. So a lot of times, one of the things that we've been doing a lot with our data protection vendors is selling both sides of that story. A flash array could be a fantastic target for a data protection solution, but it can also receive snapshots. All of a sudden, I've got multiple paths to recovery and somewhere to actually recover to if something goes wrong.
It's a fun comment. I go back to that Toronto user group. Again, lots of great conversations at user groups. Please, if you're a customer, go to the local one that we're running, that my team runs with the field. But that conversation came up, right? There was one of the customers who said, now I'm looking at, how do I get snapshots from here to there? And all of a sudden we were off on an X and a C and a how you want to, tier these kinds of things and figure out what snapshots go there. And then we navigated on to another really cool thing that's super related is all of a sudden, Dan Cobian on your team, Dan jumped into, have you guys heard about the Evergreen One Cyber SLA, with that subscription? The room kind of had it. And we went off and that was a 15-minute conversation.
It's a great conversation.
It's great. I mean, I feel like it's coming up more and more everywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's just a little add-on to an Evergreen One discussion.
Yeah.
And we can help protect you.
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I look at this as kind of a journey, right? We've got the cyber SLA. So for customers who, we think it ships within 48 hours, right? Mm-hmm. So for customers who can accept that amount of downtime, it's a perfect solution to make sure that they have something in there, right? Then you have large customers who can't accept any downtime at all. Those people may be looking to put something in the data center, something like an isolated recovery environment where they're investing a little bit more money with the expectation that they'll get that return in terms of less downtime, right? Which of course there's a ton of costs associated with downtime. So there's all these different levers we can kind of pull to solve for different challenges depending on the size of the customer and depending on kind of what they're expecting from a recovery time perspective. I love the cyber SLA too, though. The thing we don't talk about enough is there's actually a quarterly audit that comes with that as well. So we actually come in and look at their data protection posture as it relates to that cyber SLA and make recommendations and things like that so that they're up to date and they're ready so that we can execute against that plan if they actually get hit.
That sounds like a great part of the service. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they let me go to Florida anymore because every time I go, there's a customer that gets hit with ransomware.
Yeah.
So the states, like I said, I can't go back there.
Well, he's Florida man. Why don't you just let Jason Walker do that? He's Florida man, right?
Why not?
He's already there. No, that's great. Really good comprehensive look at file and object and unstructured and the tie into cyber. Because let's face it, file's hard, right? In general,
it's not easy.
File's hard to manage.
Like comparatively, block is really easy comparatively to file with all the permissions and like especially when you get into Active Directory, there's just it's an entire new world of like that's why they have single people or teams at companies that just do Active Directory. Like, because it's just not easy.
Yeah. There's an interesting, this is a total non sequitur, but there's an interesting trend where younger individuals in tech don't understand file structures because they've grown up with operating systems that abstracted we grew up with, you run in Windows
here's
95 or whatever.
Here's your drive letter. Here's your
drive. Yeah, here's your drive. I remember, having to type in C: and things. I used to write DOS, right? So I had to know where things were going. Is you've got this whole generation that's kind of like,
now we have Box
drives. What do you mean? Well,
Google Drive. All the different things. And I would walk into customers sometimes. They're like, we are not ready to get off our file servers, and I'm like, why? Like, do you have I know you probably have a Microsoft ELA. Why don't you use OneDrive? I mean, like everybody knows how to use it at home. Why? Like, let us go do the stuff that matters to your business as far as your machines are concerned. Go put all that stuff off somewhere else and let them manage their files. It does it. I mean, literally, it almost does it itself.
Yeah.
And they're like, you get this blank stare and they look at you kind of sideways like, what do you mean? Like, do you use Box at Home or OneDrive or Google Drive? And they're like, yeah. Like, isn't it easier than doing file shares?
Mm-hmm.
Then the light bulb goes off.
Yeah. It's beautiful. Great topic, great discussion, guys. I want to jump into, and I previewed this a little bit. You're out there talking to folks. We've been out with Enterprise Data Cloud as a story. Let's call it six-ish months, but
We've been doing it before.
talking about it a little bit before, but the coming out party was Accelerate in June and augmented by the Accelerate in New York and the wildly successful, I will say, because I was involved, but the wildly successful Accelerate roadshows that we ran globally. But let's talk a little bit EDC and add in Fusion as part of the intelligent control plane in the wild. Joey, go first on this one.
So I'll give you an example.
What are customers feeling? What are they coming back to?
So today at the executive briefing.
Okay, yeah.
So the main topic they really wanted, because they had a cyber event.
Okay.
4 years ago?
4 years ago. Yep.
4 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they were kind of like, they wanted to talk to Drew. Well, then it got to the point of talking about Enterprise Data Cloud, who we had Ajay come in and he kind of talked to them at a very high level.
That's great.
And I was like, all right, we're going to dig in just a little bit and talk about what Fusion is going to help you with around your cyber resilience issues you're going on. And we have a multitude of other things it'll do.
Sure.
But I was like, think about a preset that you could go create for your volumes or your file systems. You could set your protection group. So every time you created a new volume, you created a new file system, that protection group had either your safe mode set up for that level or SLA of data. And you could get, your replication set for it as well. And every time you created something new, it was always done. And you never had to think, did somebody go do it right?
Yeah. Am I going through? Am I checking all the boxes? Right. And am I going to miss a check?
Right.
Yeah.
And so the CIO goes, well, we did have that instance where somebody turned off multi-factor authentication.
Yeah, that's not great.
And that's not great. And I go, well, what if, we're going to bring out audit and compliance into presets and to Fusion in general, so that if someone went and changed it, guess what? You're going to get notification
Alerts.
You're going to get alerts.
And you get alerts in your favorite way of communicating. Right.
You're one.
Yeah.
What couldn't be better?
We're into Slack or into whatever you want to go. So just now, right? I mean, just get us know.
So they were like, just the entire light bulb goes off after, Drew went through and just described why they need to be looking at things even differently now. I mean, they're a huge Pure customer who are using what they have: X's, C's, E's, FlashBlades,
yep.
Everything. And they were like, oh, that's different. I'm like, it's about, protecting your data. And Fusion, I think the biggest thing about Fusion is how to, it lends into the Enterprise Data Cloud messaging of, like, you're really trying to create that cloud of data inside your data center in hybrid cloud and a colo, wherever your data lives with us. And that's what's going to give you that ability is Fusion. Fusion is the vehicle that makes EDC work.
Yeah. And also the capability that gets rid of some of those potential human errors.
It's some of those.
Right. Turning off.
So you think about
it is not great.
Yeah. So I was like, so you think about it this way. Now, when you do change management, all your paperwork's done for you.
Yeah.
And they were like, really?
And you also only have to set it up one time.
Yeah. You set it up one time.
You can go back and change it if you want, but you set it up one time and then apply it where you want to apply it, right? Does not have to be universal as well. I mean, that's what gets really cool and really powerful with it.
So the thing I think I've found, like at Pure and our ACs and our account teams, is they've struggled some with how do you message this? And I'm like, you really have to understand what a customer's day-to-day environment looks like, what their management is wanting them to do, and then better yet, what are their executives wanting them to do. And all the tech summits, like one of the first questions I ask is, so does your CEO and CFO care about what's on the bezel in your data center?
Yeah.
And the answer is always no.
Yeah.
They care about the data.
Yeah.
So that's where the enterprise data cloud messaging comes in, and that's where the focus should be. Then Fusion is our vehicle to help us get there. It's kind of that mid-plane that allows you to go from ServiceNow to put in a ticket to going through Slack and saying, hey, we've done this part, this part, this part.
Yeah, like the demo we did at the New York.
The demo you did
blew my mind.
I know.
I was part of the team working to help define and at least kind of manage the development of that. And it started going off, as a Prakash thing where Prakash's like, we're going to show, sorry, Prakash, we're going to show, I should do a different voice, but, we're going to show this, we're going to show VMs, and then we're going to show automating taking VMs and migrating them over containers, and we're going to get notified every step of the way. And we're just going to set that up and do that all in Fusion.
Yeah. So I think the big thing is like for us at Pure, we need to understand the customer and what their day-to-day problems are.
It's key.
It's key. Yeah. Then we can describe to them how Fusion is going to help them create that enterprise data cloud to get them where they want to be.
Well, an optimal environment with the customer you're talking to today, right? If they had so many different flavors of things that we create and put in place. Again, bezels and kits, it's really about the data.
Correct.
But all those different objects treat data different ways optimally.
Because we're kind of a hybrid software hardware company.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, I think we've built hardware that allows us to take care and do the things that we can do through software.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad is an old school. He loves when I talk about him on the pod. So, hey, Dad, he's an old school storage guy, right? Worked at IBM. And so it's always interesting when he listens to these episodes and he goes, oh, so we did that, that RAID thing or whatever, back in, and he always has the year. He's like a steel trap with when these things happen. But he's always fascinated that we've solved things in software now, right? Yeah. For these core storage features that he can say, well, in 1985, our goal was to bring out this feature and we had to design it. It was mostly a hardware iteration. But you guys Pure now, like you just do that in software. That's crazy.
Well, for me in 85, we were trying to figure out which crop we were going to get out of the field first before the storms came. And
it's a whole nother story. That's a whole nother. We'll come back.
That's another show, right?
It's a whole nother show.
The beauty with Enterprise Data Cloud and just the vision, the narrative, the story, and I realized this across the summer as well with the road shows, it applies to anything we're trying to solve. There's a database applicability. There's an AI applicability. There's a cyber applicability. So what are you seeing, Drew, relative to the extension of this narrative, right? Treating data as pools to be managed, where we have the intelligent control plane, the Fusion-y things, we have a unified data plane, a set of products that work together with a single operating environment. And then, yes, of course, we layered kind of cyber under that and all wrapped in EG1 and Pure One. Like I've gone through the whole diagram right there verbally. But how does this apply as you're starting to have these conversations in cyber? Like where are customers kind of seeing the light now as it comes to their cyber resilience initiatives?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I think, if you look at especially Accelerate in NYC, the cyber resilience message was top of mind.
We had a lot to talk about.
There was a lot to talk about, a lot of new features there. I think, when we talk about how this impacts customers, first of all, I think it sends a clear message to customers that this is a focus for Pure, right? That this is not something that we're backing down on. There are investments in technology, there are investments in how we message and what we do from an architectural perspective. So I think that's kind of first and foremost is they realize that we intend to be a thought leader in that space, right? That's kind of what Scott's group, myself, and those of us in that group were really trying to go out and message to everybody is that we want to be thought leaders in this space. And it's not just about Pure Storage. It's about being a good partner to them and making sure that we participate in what is a larger ecosystem. Cyber resilience is a team sport. I say that all the time, right? It's not just about storage.
I love that mantra.
So, I think showing that we're showing up, that we're building a connected ecosystem, right? The feedback that we get from analysts is that the connected ecosystem of partners, our data protection alliances, our security alliances is the way to go. Right? We can't do everything ourselves. We're not a security company, but we are security minded. And we want to make sure that we have those best of breed partnerships. So, wrapping all of that around Fusion. The other thing too, Joey was talking about presets and I do this almost every time I did it this morning. We were talking to the C-suite guys is, from a C-level objectives perspective, one of the things that they're looking to do is minimize risk.
Sure.
Right. And cyber is all about risk mitigation in some capacity or another. So presets, right? Presets mean we don't have to make mistakes anymore. Presets mean protection policies get automatically applied, right? All of those things mean less risk to the business, better availability for the data. Now, if we extend that to Fusion as sort of what's delivering the EDC, Fusion from an integration perspective is kind of the way forward for us as it relates to our data protection vendors, right? We've got brand new integrations with 2 data protection vendors that have been announced in the last 6 months.
Super excited.
Rubrik first, right? We're doing some really cool stuff with them around passing threat analytics data back to Pure so that we can identify the last known good copy of data from a snapshot restore perspective. To we're going to pass some data out to Veeam to tell them what we're determining from an anomaly perspective, right? To Veeam being able to actually reach into Fusion and populate an entire fleet of arrays versus having to individually add arrays into a Veeam environment. All those things are delivered through Fusion because we're trying to create this, sort of ecosystem where we don't have to think about a single array.
Yeah.
Right? We're abstracting it. I do want to tell a quick story if I can go a little bit.
For sure. We love stories here.
So Joey brought up that customer that we were talking to this morning, and it's really interesting, right? They had that cyber attack that I mentioned 4 years ago. So I'll start off by saying statistically, it takes about 24 days for most businesses to recover from a cyber event. These guys recovered from storage snapshots in 8 hours. I talk about storage snapshots as the fastest path to recovery all the time. This is a real life example. Interesting thing that happened, they had snapshots that kicked off at 12 o'clock. The attack took place at 12:01. They had almost no data loss whatsoever and an 8-hour recovery time. Now, there's a little bit of luck involved in that, but if you think about it, the recovery time there is significantly better than almost every business.
Way better than industry. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
I thought that was really interesting.
It's really interesting. And it's great to have that kind of story too, because I think we look for those. I think a lot of times we hear from customers who have had a cyber event or a ransomware hit and they were not running our gear and our capabilities around protection, and now augmenting with things like the CrowdStrike, right? It's getting super. I love you paint that picture of us doing things at the core. And that was what really stood out about the New York Accelerate announcer is like, okay, here's some really great innovations that Pure is doing because we have to keep building upon that. And then, the Veeam solution and the Rubrik. And then we talked about, CrowdStrike, and we're augmenting that. It was almost, 2 or 3 years ago, I was at an SAP Insider show in Europe, and I remember having a chat with one of those vendors, I won't mention which, but we were spitballing about, well, what happens if, you guys are tied to us and you get an alert or you figure out that something funky is going on, and then we can fire off, all of a sudden immediately fire up, and we're kind of there, fire off snapshots. No, you're right. You get kind of lucky. It depends on the retention policy, I guess, there, but better to be lucky than be good.
If we're seeing it in the network, before it ever gets to storage, you could go take a snapshot.
Take a snapshot now.
Yeah, and part of this is about time to containment. Right?
Sure.
How quickly can we contain this event? Is it going to be a giant event or is it going to be a minimal event? Right.
Yeah. And yet it's all crafted around the enterprise data cloud, right? We're still looking at the entire real estate of all that data and then how you protect it. That was one of the challenges we had when we were crafting the visuals for that New York Accelerate event. It was like, well, how do we do that? And it ended up being kind of this whole visual of, it's like a wall around the whole image that we had created for EDC, because that's what we're all about, not alone, but with our innovations, with our solution partners as well. Yeah. Powerful story.
That's why I would have a request to any customers that listen to this.
Yeah.
Please, at least use snaps. I couldn't tell you the customers of ours who have gotten hit with ransomware and weren't even doing snaps on that.
Yeah.
And
turn on safe mode. Your snaps will be immutable and indelible.
Yeah.
Hi, Andy Stone. Immutable and indelible.
It's yes,
very important.
So that's definitely an Andy.
Space efficient. All those good things. I had one thing. Sorry, I want to hit it before I forget it, because I forgot it and then it fired back in my head. How close are we getting to the point when you go back to the mitigation of risk and auditing and compliance? Certainly, to your point earlier, we get into that point where we're going to get CISO type personas looking over into, because they're kind of separate, right? You said it's a team sport. I think what's really critical is having the folks like the Chief Information Security Officer, the CISO types, recognize that there are solutions that are infrastructure-based software too, that can actually help them meet their requirements. I mean, we're probably already there, but
I love that
getting
question.
there?
I love that question. I think we're getting there.
Yeah.
A big part of that is our security partnerships, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times you look to a CISO and they probably don't want to talk to a storage company. But if we go with our security partners, if we show up with CrowdStrike, right? If we're in that messaging, then all of a sudden we have a different vector to kind of get to that audience. And one of the other things I say about cyber resilience is it really is unifying for businesses, right? You have infrastructure teams, you have security teams. They oftentimes live in silos and never talk. I just did a cyber resilience workshop on Monday before I came here in Tampa, and director of security was in there with the rest of the infrastructure team. So I'm like, we're getting there.
That's what needs to happen.
It's happening.
That's what needs to happen.
The CIO that was there today for the executive briefing.
Yeah.
He was going like, you said we were a 4 out of a 5 on our security. What are we missing? And what they weren't doing, like the KMIM server with the extra key inserted into the encryption.
The rapid data lock.
The rapid data
locking part. Yeah.
But this is a good chance to start to go into CISOs and CIOs and saying, look, you can get access to Pure One and see these things, and you can go question your team. You don't have to go look at the formats and stuff like that. Just go look at the page that has all your ratings of where you're at with, energy usage,
the assessments, right?
Security assessment.
All the assessments. Security assessment.
Right.
Yeah. All that.
They're all in there. They're all included.
They're all included.
They're all included.
So the price of,
don't use the F word, but they're all included.
Yeah.
Been trained out of that.
They're all in the price of you purchasing from us.
Yeah. It's a great thing. And that maybe is one of the hardest things we have with the pace of innovation that we have, particularly when you look at DX, digital experience features, and particularly things in Pure One. There's just a lot in there. It's very feature and capability rich, which is a great thing, but it still hit instances where people don't know we have VM analytics in there, right? And it's like, oh, well, and I'm curious with this Nutanix-y thing that,
it's going to be just
came out. Like, we're going to do equivalent to that. And, I had Cody and their VP of product in, and they kind of alluded to a VM analytics-y thing for their hypervisors
who are having performance issues.
Yeah.
And helping them figure out where the issue is.
Yeah. But it's kind of a macro message for customers that have been using Pure for a while, or maybe even new, is get your SE in there and have them show you. Just do a tour. Just do a walkthrough, because you're probably going to find things in Pure One that can make your life easier, or check boxes on getting auditing and compliance done faster, or being able to deflect the blame, right? VM Analytics is a instant blame defector, or whatever it is that people use. I'm not using the right term, but there's just so many things in there that are worthwhile.
I would say it identifies blind spots that you might not
also. Yeah.
So that's how we did PVRs back in the day before we had PVRs.
Yeah.
Was we would go, every time we had the customer, we'd say, let's look at Pure One. There's these new features. Go look at this. Oh, let's go look and see, what does your environment look like? Do you need some help?
What more could you be doing?
What could we be doing to help you? And it resonated very well with the customer doing those things.
Yeah. And we still do them. Pure Value Reviews. Very, very good. I want to close on this segment and just plug a little bit Tech Summits, right? So Tech Summits is one of the marquee field marketing events that we run around the region. Really great, tight, few hours, couple topics, always a customer included, right? We get a customer's perspective.
I think this year we haven't really done as many on
not
customers.
as many customers.
We try to get what we're trying to do now is get the customers involved while we're talking, and
see, that would be interesting. Yeah, we're doing the same thing with our user groups. We're really trying to get more of a customer.
Let's be interactive while we're talking about this. Ask some questions.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're individually doing a customer, which those have been great too.
But having them be involved at least. But you're just not sitting on your hands and watching people blast slides for 2.5 hours. Right. There's some times to have interaction, to discussion, questions, talk to the experts.
Absolutely.
Or have customers talk about their own experiences, which is the biggest value that we can get.
And we'll take a break or something. And, and then once we start doing that, when we do take breaks in between, us standing and talking for, 25, 30 minutes at a time. And we'll start having customers come up to us during those breaks. Hey, you said this.
That's where the real work gets done.
It is.
Right?
It is. It's great. And it's so much fun. We've done, almost 10 this year in the Southeast.
Yeah, it's great.
Good stuff happens in the margins, right? In the bars.
It does.
Hey, we've even got Seth Jameson to talk at a couple of them.
He still goes and speaks?
He does.
Love you, Seth. No, and I there's a parallel to that with the Pure user groups that we're doing. Like user groups are great. We're trying to get to a model, and for customers out there, if you're interested in being a group leader, which means just choosing the topic and kind of leading the discussion, reach out to me, reach out to Brianna McDougall. We'd love to have you. But to your point, the real benefit happens in the margins or maybe after during the fun, right? Whether it's bowling or whether it's, K1 speed racing, but where people are sitting and hanging out after the program part, I see it happen over and over again where somebody comes up to me or comes up to one of the SEs and goes, that thing you were talking about, we're kind of struggling with this. And instead of me saying, I got a solution for you, or the SE going, here's how you do it, we point across the room and go, check with her over there from whatever customer.
Right.
She figured that out, and you do the introduction, and now you've got two peers talking and figuring things out from one another. And that's where the magic happens, right?
It is. I had more customers sell for me in the early days than I did myself.
Yeah.
Once we got them on board, and then, or definitely, like you said, like before we really had the user groups.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I know you've ran through this, and I know you're using a different environment than most people. I've got a customer over here is kind of doing the same thing. Would you mind talking to them?
Yeah.
And they were always just ecstatic and happy to go do it. And it really kind of worked out. I mean, it was kind of, I guess, the start of the user group, but it was more like
or there were instances. Owings has that story from 10 years ago where he was doing something in Atlanta and he got up and talked about Evergreen and all that. And one of his customers that actually gone through an Evergreen upgrade stood up in front of the room when he was done talking and said, I know all that sounds crazy up there, but I just did it. And here's what happened and why it works. And everything he's saying is true. And that's the best validation that we can get. We even have that on the digital community site right now. We ran a Ask Us Everything webinar a couple months ago, and it was around purity and self-service upgrades. And after that, it was a customer who went on the digital site and wrote 3-paragraph post and talked about their experience going through, I don't know how many, 60 plus different Evergreen upgrades, and then did a plug for the Pure One genealogy capability that's in Pure One to see, understand what's happened a long time. So that's the kind of thing that we're trying to get out of that. But great to hear the tech summits have been going really well. I want to take you guys into hot takes now, because not surprising with a pod with the three of us, we're running a little longish on this one, but that's all right. That's what's fun. We've been having a good time. I usually ask folks 3 questions, right? So to give you a little time to think. One is around an IT capability or some trend in the industry that you think leaders might be missing or not emphasizing or paying enough attention to. One is if you've ever done an oops when you were a practitioner, system analyst.
Definitely. Definitely.
Did you mess up when you were making nuts and bolts? And then the final one is just a quick hit of reflection going back in time. Like, is there something you wish you knew earlier in your career that you would have liked somebody to tell you, or that you would have spent more time on? So who wants to go first? A trend or capability? I bet yours is going to be cyber related, but who wants to go first? Trend or IT capability?
I can go first. Yeah. So this was actually this spring. Actually, maybe it's summer. Had a customer who's like, we're going all in on cloud. They're like, we've done the cost analysis. It's going to be cheaper than keeping our data centers. And I go, that's like, I'm not telling you you're wrong.
Yeah.
But I am going to ask you a couple of questions. I just want to make sure that your consultant that came in and told you, everything is perfect, you've done it all right. Did they talk to you about doing your policies and procedures around the cloud? Like, that when in your data center, people can only do these things because you set up your policies, procedures, you set up your change management, everything. Have you set that up for the cloud? And he goes, no. And I go, that's where your biggest cost is going to come from, is the overruns of everything that people did that you didn't know they were going to do.
The extra.
And the look of horror on his face was, oh no. And I was like, so you really need to dig in on that. So actually they jumped back and said, you know what, we're going to put this off like a year.
All right.
I was like, yes, thank you. I'm like, yeah, and it's people that I've worked with some other customers and the customer they're at now. And I was like, thank you so much. I just don't want you to get yourself in trouble.
No. But it's again, the summary is look holistically at that kind of move, like all the different aspects that are required operationally, not just, we're going to throw some compute and VMs into cloud and just consume this all service. There's so many operational aspects that go along with that.
Right.
Makes sense. That's a good one. Drew, what about you?
So, spoiler alert, it is going to be a blue
That's
fiber.
good. No, that's why you're here.
So, no, I think, from a trends perspective,
Yeah.
the thing that I think is really interesting is an uptick in what's called a supply chain attack, right? And so supply chain attacks, think about all of the vendors that you might have as a customer. You might integrate with different SaaS platforms and things like that. One of the newer vectors for attacks is actually some of these trusted services that they're getting in through trusted services by generating accounts within those places and actually then gaining access to other data. You may have other things. So the thing that I think we need to be aware of is just because we, for instance, create a trust relationship with a specific service doesn't mean we shouldn't continuously evaluate the trust relationship. We shouldn't be doing things like rotating keys, et cetera, right? Just because it's in the cloud doesn't mean that it's 100% safe. Ironically, both of our things were about cloud in a little bit of a way. But, I think these supply chain attacks are really something to be on the lookout for.
In a nice way. Just be wary. Yes. Right? That's all. Just be wary. That's an interesting one because you can infiltrate downstream or upstream depending on where you are and then still gain the access that you need without somebody maybe not knowing about it.
Yeah.
That's a curious one. I like that one. That one's good. What's your oops? Where'd you messed up? Question 2.
So this was about 5 years ago. I was at a customer.
Yeah.
And we were putting in some new cards into their controllers. And I'm looking at the labels on all the fiber channel and everything in it. And I'm like, okay, this is this and this is this. So I can pull these and I can pull out that, passive controller, the secondary controller, and we'll be good. No, the fiber was labeled wrong.
We're only so good as our labeling.
We're only so good at, so I'm going to go with it wasn't completely my fault.
Okay.
But I still was the one who pulled the fiber.
And we recovered though.
And we
It was
recovered.
recoverable.
Yeah.
That's hard. Labeling,
Labeling is, it's an art.
it's an art. Back to those things that you have to, make sure you're aware of every single detail or, is there a way to have Fusion solve mislabeling issues for us?
Sure.
With us?
It's absolutely.
It does.
Just apply some AI to it.
For sure. We'll throw some AI and just mix it all together. What about you? Do you have one?
Yeah.
Do you have one from System Analyst days?
I am. I'm going to take
I
you
love it. I'm
all
so
the way
excited.
back
I'm
to
so excited.
a galaxy far, far away.
Yeah.
So a long time ago, as I mentioned in this role, like I was doing a lot of different things, up to and including like controlling who had AD access and things like that. I would get an HR ticket or something like that. And in this case, somebody was terminated. And I got an HR ticket to turn off access to these things. These things weren't automated 15 years ago, at least not where I was.
Yeah.
And I turn off access to the account. I go home. About 2 hours later, I get an angry, very angry phone call. There were 2 guys, B. Smith and B.A. Smith. I had deactivated the CIO's account. Obviously,
Was that B. Smith or B.A. Smith? Do you remember?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It was one of those, yeah.
It was something that was honestly reparable,
sure.
but it caused a bit of consternation, and I got a chewing about it, as you can imagine.
At least it wasn't a resume generating.
It was not.
No.
It was not. I made it through.
You still made it through.
Yeah.
Which is good. But yeah, I mean, Smith to start with, and then a B and a BA. And like, what do you know? I mean,
So, my Amex here got cut off like that once.
oh, because of the J and the, yeah.
There was a J.O. Clark
Yeah.
and I'm J. Clark.
Okay.
And someone
lost it.
No, I think
Or
someone
they shut it off. Yeah,
left the company and they were shutting it off. And
Mhm.
I'm actually going to get on a plane to go to Atlanta for Tech Summit. And I get an alert on my phone because I have it in my Apple Pay. So when we're in restaurant stuff, I can pay that way for things that aren't, over our limit for no receipt. And I'm like, what's going on? And then I get another alert and I'm like, go to a shop and try to pay for, like, and get me some water and, a little snack or something before I get on the plane. No go. So I'm calling JD going, do I still have a job?
I hit sales kickoff 3 years ago. It's that first one we did in Orlando, I think. And I got there to check in, whichever hotel I was in there. And I popped in my work and my corporate Amex. Didn't work. Didn't work. Decline. I'm like, okay, here's one of my personal cards. Forget it. And then went up to my room. It had been hacked. So they shut it off.
Oh, wow.
So it had been hacked. And then 3 weeks later, my personal credit cards both got hit. And then 3 weeks after that, my debit card got hit. So somebody, like in the course of basically a month and a half, I had to replace all of those, but little consternation getting to SCO the first, like I'm checking in, I'm going to be, and I go 3 days before you all go, you know, with all the stuff that I got to do, working with the events team and doing all the content and rehearsals and everything. I was like, how am I going to pay for everything? But Amex did me right. Real quick on the last one here, question 3, you hop in the Wayback Machine. I'm a big fan of Sherman and Peabody. I've watched that on Bullwinkle show every morning growing up when I was in elementary school. So the Wayback Machine, younger folks look it up. What would you like to know? Going back 15, 20, however many years to the early part of your career, what
I'd say for me is that, I started out doing Microsoft and I got into Linux. Was like one of the first 10 RHCs in the state of Arkansas. Working at Axiom, some really interesting things around Linux. And then getting into storage and kind of letting some of that go. I mean, I still have like the bones of it and I understand what I'm looking at. I just, I'm not as into it as I was.
Yeah.
Being able to do some of the things I did then, I could probably get back into.
Probably.
But it's one of the things I really wish I would have, today, everything going on with Kubernetes.
Yeah.
And everything like that. It would have been great to, really be a lot more proficient than I am today.
It would have been a nice bridge, right?
Yeah.
If you'd kept up with that. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. The stool has 3 legs and you do storage, you do networking, or you do servers and CPUs, right?
Right.
And it's, and operating systems, obviously. And it's hard to do all those. I mean, mad respect for the customers that we work with that are in the smaller environments where they wear multiple hats. I mean, there was a university I did a podcast with 7 or 8 years ago where I went down and they had 3 people, right? And it was not just the 3 legs of the stool, but somebody with 1.5 of them were DBAs and secure. I mean, they were doing everything. It was just 3 people for this private school down in Southern California. And they were covering it soup to nuts for, 15,000 students and incredible kind of stuff. So anyway, what's yours, Drew? What's your, I wish I would have known or wish somebody would have told me or taught me or however direction you want.
I was thinking about that. And, I think for me, and I talk to Joey about this sometimes, I think I would say that the best paths for you or me are not always the most obvious paths, right? Like, for instance, nobody ever goes to school necessarily to become like a sales engineer.
No.
Right? But this career path is an amazing place to be, right? It's been beneficial to me, from a professional and a personal growth perspective. And it's not something that would have jumped out, right? You don't see it at a career fair, right? Things like that. So I love it. I love what I do. I love talking to customers and I'm just excited to have stumbled onto it. I kind of wish I had stumbled a little sooner.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always thrilled when I see folks that were IT practitioners. There's an SE, you may know, Scott Nalawanic, who is up in Portland, Oregon area. He was a customer of ours for 5 or 6 years. And he had never been a systems engineer, never in a field-facing sales role, but he loved what we did so much he came to work for us. So we have multiple, counts of that, but they don't put it out there for you, right? You're doing hardcore data center rack stuff, and they're like, hey, in 12 years, you might be in a place where you can go help customers do this stuff and help them be successful. It's not something that they really put on a career map for you. So it's good you had that realization.
Yeah, I think even when you're a customer and you see guys, girls, women that are SEs, you don't even think about it. At the time, you're like, oh, this is my account team.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not put out there, I think. But I think all of our SEs that have been customers, like they have a lot of empathy for people.
Yeah.
Because they've been there, they've done it. They've been through the, 90-hour, we got hit by a virus or ransomware or whatever it is.
Yeah. You're on all weekend or whatever. I mean, it's brutal at times, for sure. So it's awesome. It's good you had that. Yeah. I'll call that a high note that we can go out on. Yeah. It's good. Where can folks find you? This is fun. Thank you also, both gents, for alerting me that you were going to be here with the EBC. If you come back with somebody, let's do it again. I love getting just anecdotes from the field and what you're hearing and seeing. Sometimes for me, that's more fun and interesting than something that's very structured around a topic or a launch, right? It's just fun to sit here and riff. And
I think we get to see some things that are a little bit different in the field, like how this actually affects customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
love it. Where can folks find you?
LinkedIn good / Drew Kessel. Simple, right?
Beautiful.
There.
Beautiful. And the whole team is out there. You know, if you're having cyber experiences out there and want to have some folks that have lots of credibility to come in and chat about our approach right now, and as well as some of the partners we've got.
Can I plug one thing?
Great opportunities. Absolutely. This is plug time.
We are doing cyber resilience workshops.
Awesome.
Right.
They're back
throughout the US. So we're really excited about it. It's not just about Pure, right? Again, because it's a team sport, it's a conversation. They run like a tabletop exercise. There's a role play associated with it. And it really just talks about all the things that happen during that cyber event, all the decisions that go into it, the processes. It's not just about Pure. It's really about being better prepared for those events and having good conversations. It's very interactive.
It's not a bunch of presentations. We actually ran, I think we were the pilot for it up at an Alaska peer user group a few weeks ago.
Yes. Yeah.
And the 20 or so customers that came to that absolutely loved it, right? They loved showing up to something and not just getting blasted again by slides. They actually were handed an assignment and were a little uncomfortable at first because there is role play parts of it. And sometimes people, when they're provided a role play, they're kind of like, I kind of going to feel weird and goofy.
It's not my favorite thing.
And then I was told that everybody started getting into it and went, well, if I'm going to have to do this, I'm going to get into it. So that's a great plug. So if you're out there, look for those cyber workshops. I was aware when we ran the AI workshops too. It wasn't about Pure thing. It was about educating about what is this AI thing that's coming and who are some of the players in the space. And then, where can we help?
So find me on LinkedIn.
Okay. And in a truck. Driving truck, place to place.
Yeah. I absolutely go by a heavy duty truck. Recently got hit by someone.
Yeah. You're showing me that.
Showed you that.
A little unsettling.
It was unsettling, but my truck barely moved.
Right. I know. Barely done.
Yeah. Anyway, but one interesting part is the picture on my LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Is from the old LinkedIn office right down the street from Meta.
No way.
Yeah. I was
That's awesome.
It was a bunch of us worked at General Data Tech down in Dallas, and we were out there visiting, and we may have all been at a pub.
Yeah, it happens.
And I was like, oh, it's a LinkedIn office. Yeah, watch this to my picture with the LinkedIn
beautiful
sign inside their office. So
well, go look it up. Go look up Joey's picture. Drew, Joey, thank you both for coming on today. Absolute pleasure to host you. As you can tell, I had a lot of fun having you both in here today. Feeling very loose today, which is great. Find these gentlemen on LinkedIn and certainly reach out, right? Contact your account team if you want to bring them or other members of their team in to have some deeper conversations. They are available, and that is what they live to do. Thanks to Drew. Thanks, Joey. Thank you for checking out this episode of the Pure Report podcast. As always, tell a friend, tell a colleague, and we will keep the great guests like Joey and Drew coming on to the program. With that, we'll call it a wrap for Pure Storage. For Drew Kessel, for Joey Clark, this is Rob Ludeman saying, don't look back. Something might be gaining on you.